Larry, I'm in a bit of a shock here. The Golden State Warriors, did they win? The Warriors won? What? Is
On
that
the road, nonetheless?
on the road against the we got to break this down. My Lord, miracles do happen, folks. It is the holidays. He's Larry Krueger, part of the Krug Show. I'm Cyrus Saatsaz, part of Golden Days, and we're going to recap a win, folks. The Warriors won. Let's break it down. This is the Krug Show. This is Golden Days.
That is it for us today, and we will leave you with I can't do it. No. We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. And things suck. Woo!
Let's go.
In a minute, I'ma need a sentimental man or woman to pump me up. Come on and break me off. Cause I get what I want and I like what I see.
All right, back in the W column, baby. All right, welcome to a Saturday Night Live edition of the Krug Show and Golden Days. Krug, who's paying your bills, brother? Take it away.
Well, of course, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California.
Oh.
Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. So check out Pig and a Pickle.
They run out of their brisket, right?
Locations.
That's when you know that's a good place. They sell out of the brisket, correct?
Yeah, well, it's real barbecue. A real barbecue place is going to run out because that's the way it goes, and they do. So don't walk in at the last second and think you're getting everything. We're also brought to you by Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California, on the Monterey Peninsula. My good friend Anthony Catania is at 831-521-5264, and we're also brought to you by Mancini's Sleep World. They're a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. They offer a 120-night guarantee with a range of brands and price points. I love my Mancini's bed. So with Mancini's, you get free next-day delivery. Click the link below. Go to sleepworld.com. Find a bed that works for you. Whether you shop online or visit in store, Krug10, use that code, and you'll get 10% off. KRUEG 10. You'll get 10% off in store or online at sleepworld.com.
What's that code again, Larry? Because 10% off a bed is a shitload of money. Repeat that one more time.
Krug10, KRUEG 10, and you'll get 10% off your total order.
Bravo. And tonight's episode is also brought to you by Vitamin Energy. Larry, I don't think you've been around for my new sponsor. We're starting to build things here. Vitamin Energy. Go healthy with your energy boosters. Use the promo code Golden Days for 20% off a product that will not only give you an energy boost that's comparable to Red Bull, that's comparable to those quick little 5-hour things, except Vitamin Energy is healthy for you. I literally had my mom and my sister, two health nuts, be my test subjects. They gave it flying colors in terms of the seal of approval. Check it out, vitaminenergy.com. And remember, one more time, use the promo code Golden Days, days spelled like dazed and confused, for 20% off your order. And tonight's episode is also brought to you by BetOnline. And Larry, you and I talk a lot about how astute, how brilliant the bookies are. They had the Minnesota Timberwolves favored tonight by only 4 points. And I tweeted this. The moment I saw that, I was thinking to myself, you know what? That seems like such an obvious bet. I smell trap. They lay the trap, man. So if you bet on the Warriors, congratulations, because they set that up beautifully to steal money from a lot of folks. And BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform, your number one source for online betting. Head to BetOnline today, and don't forget to use the promo code BELIEVE. That's the name of the network that Golden Days is on. BLEAV is how you spell it, for your welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here. Larry, I know you were distracted a little bit tonight because the college football playoffs are going on. I'm embarrassed to admit, I missed it. I completely forgot that the playoffs were happening, and I've been waiting for this for like 15, 20 years. So again, there's a lot of stuff going on tonight, but the Warriors slipping through the cracks there in terms of attention. They win. It was a badly needed win, man. They've lost 9 of the last 11 entering tonight, so that slide stops the Minnesota Timberwolves for whatever reason, in the same way that the Clippers have the Warriors number. The Warriors, for the most part, seem to have Minnesota's number. They've won 2 out of 3 against them this year, and that one loss was close. So a win is huge, man. What is your reaction to this game? And great to see you, brother.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, first of all, they had 30 assists tonight, and they took care of the basketball. They only had 11 total turnovers. If you can get your assist up and share the ball and not turn it over, now you're starting to play Warrior basketball. It was an even battle on the points in the paint. They were -4. Even battle on the break, 17 apiece. Warriors got off to a great start in the first quarter and had an 11-point lead at the end of one. Up their lead at halftime. T-Wolves had a really strong third quarter, but Golden State put it away with a strong fourth quarter. And you just kind of looked at this and said, okay, Steph Curry is going to bounce back. Steph Curry had a brutal performance, the worst performance we've seen in a long time.
Probably ever.
And,
I would say ever. Like that was.
He was bad. Sorry. He was bad. I mean, and now he had 31. He was plus 20 tonight, 10 assists. You knew he was going to bounce back with a big performance, and he did. Then Draymond Green didn't play in this game. And I'm not saying Green, slows them down, but that kind of forced Kerr's hand to play Trayce Jackson-Davis. And I really like what happens when Trayce Jackson-Davis plays a lot of minutes. He played 26 tonight, which is not a lot, but he 15 points and 9 rebounds.
Well, by his standards,
he made 7 of his 8 field goals. He had 2 blocks. He had a couple assists. He had a steal. He only had 1 turnover. So, I mean, I love that 15 and 9 and 2 line when throwing the blocks from TJD. I'm very impressed there. And then they got some scoring off the bench. I mean, Kuminga, Buddy Hield, and Pods all went for double figures off the bench.
Yeah.
And so that was big.
I agree. A weird start to this game, right? And Larry, I don't know if you missed this or not, but the game was delayed by 30 minutes and then some. I think it even went longer than that because apparently Kuminga was fooling around with his teammates, hanging on the rim, like knocking balls that were being made during pregame shoot-around out of the rim. Again, just having fun with his teammates, but through all this jovial antics where he's hanging on the rim and he's messing around, something happened with the net. And Buddy Hield noticed some sort of discrepancy with the rim of the net, like seconds before tip, right before the jump. He's pointing to the rim, and they go check it out, and it turns out one of the loops that the net connects to with the rim had come out. So basketball rims have a lot of these little like hooks in them, and that's where the net string kind of loops in there. And one of those fell out, and for whatever reason, this turned into like a 35-minute delay, 3 different tries to get this net on the rim. Finally, they get this thing going a little after 8 o'clock. And like you said, Larry, I think that the Draymond Green absence tonight opened the door for Trayce Jackson-Davis to get extra minutes, and I thought he had a fantastic game tonight. We'll obviously break that down more in detail, but it also, we saw Kyle Anderson start the game. I don't know about you. I mean, I know you've had your opinions about slow-mo, but I do think he is a positive asset for this team. Like, good things are happening when he's on the court. And there was no exception tonight. The Warriors, I don't think it's a surprise that you put out your 2 tallest players. That's what Kyle Anderson and Trayce Jackson-Davis are. And you get these kinds of results. All of a sudden, other teams are not getting those easy buckets. Minnesota only scored 15 first-quarter points. Size matters in the NBA, Larry. I'm so over small ball. It's borderline triggering. It's traumatizing. You and I grew up with Nelly ball, and I never thought we'd see it again, yet it's back. So it was a relief to see some size down there tonight. Larry, your thoughts, brother?
Well, I mean, you got to match up, right? I mean, Gobert, Randall, it's a big front line. You're going to have to match up. Naz Reid is always a Warrior killer. He came off the bench and hit 4 of 7 threes. So Naz Reid made his impact felt. But yeah, I mean, it's a big team. You're going to go to more of a bigger lineup against a team like the T-Wolves.
100% agreed. But Trayce Jackson-Davis starting, there was a crazy stat. Sam Gordon of the San Francisco Chronicle, in his most recent story with the Chronicle, sorry to be redundant there, had 2 fascinating paragraphs to me in there, detailing what has changed about the Golden State Warriors from the moment they, from their 12-3 start to the more recent 11-game stretch where the Warriors have lost 9 of 11. And in fact, I could actually post this as a graphic so we can all see this ourselves. Whoops, not that. And this is where I thought a lot of things were corrected tonight. Here, during this 11-game stretch. So the Warriors fell from first in the West to the 10th. They went from having one of the top defenses in the NBA. They were 4th They dropped to 22nd. They dropped. They were at one point second in the NBA in deflections, right? Getting your hands in there, tipping balls, 20.9 deflections per game. That went down from those first 15 games where they were 12-3. They dropped to 21st in deflections. You suddenly had 5 less per game. The Warriors went from being 7th in loose balls recovered, 5.3, down to 20th at 3.6. And lastly, they went from second in contested shots, meaning actually just sticking your hand in somebody's face so the shot is not as easy to see at a bare minimum if you're not trying to block it all together. And they dropped from that being second to 9th in the NBA in contested shots. They were contesting 42.5. That went down to 42.9, and that dropped them from second to 9th. The point is the defensive intensity I didn't think was there. And one correlation that I noticed between the first 15 games and the last 11 was Trayce Jackson-Davis was starting games. People have forgotten that. Like Draymond Green was talking about how he's allowed to roam as a free safety. He was using a football metaphor to describe how much easier playing defense is for him when Trayce Jackson-Davis is out there as the starting center. And then for whatever reason, we saw this deviation from that. And we've seen this endless experimentation with the starting lineup. And Trayce Jackson-Davis was back in the game tonight. And if you have his stats in front of you, read those off one more time if you don't mind, because I thought he had a fantastic game. But your thoughts, man, on Trayce Jackson-Davis starting, and hopefully we'll see more of this. I mean, I don't know why we left why Kerr abandoned starting Trayce Jackson-Davis to begin with. I hope we see more of it. I loved seeing it tonight. Larry, if you don't mind reading the stats again, because I thought they were fantastic, and your thoughts on Trayce Jackson-Davis not starting and now starting, which I thought gave the defense a massive boost in addition to the easy buckets we saw offensively.
Well, they don't have any big players that are any good. I mean, Looney is he played 22 minutes. I'm not a big Looney fan. He's a smart player, but he's a beneath the rim kind of a player. They don't have a true big man on this roster. That's it. I mean, they don't have anybody. If they had anybody, they could play him. This is their big man, so you got to play this guy.
Agreed.
And not only that. I mean, this is not like some clog the middle big man who doesn't know how to play. You can't play off of him. You can't play through him in any way. This guy knows how to play. This guy played in the Big Ten for an entire career. He knows how to score. He knows how to rebound. He knows how to pass. He knows how to get other people involved. Trayce Jackson-Davis is a complete basketball player, so I just kind of wish they would play him, more 25 minutes plus a night every night. And I just feel like they're slowing his development by, kind of not committing to him when there's absolutely no reason not to. Yeah. There's not another player there that you're like, oh yeah, you know what? You can't commit to him. You got to get this guy minutes. No, Trayce Jackson-Davis's minutes should be a priority for Kerr.
I wholeheartedly agree. Armando Lara dropping $9.99. Thank you for the donation, writing that Trayce Jackson-Davis was unleashed tonight with other athletes. We saw Wiggins and Kuminga briefly out there together. There was a moment, and that moment paid off. I still don't understand why we don't see those two playing more together. Those are arguably your two best athletes on this team. They're two of your best players on this team. We rarely, if ever, see them on the court together. It's absurd. But regardless, we saw it tonight. And he brings up Brandon Podziemski as well. And that's an interesting name, I think, because he had a good game tonight. And Bob Fitzgerald read off an interesting stat regarding Podziemski. Let's talk. I'll read off his stats first real fast. Brandon Podziemski played in this game 19 minutes, 31 seconds, was 5 of 9 from the field. His three-point shot is being rediscovered, which I think is huge. 2 of 3 from deep tonight. Over the last 7 games, Podziemski has been hitting over 40% of his three-pointers. And again, that's massive. Like if he's hitting the threes, the minutes suddenly become very justifiable. I also thought it was smart of Kerr, and I give him credit when it's due, to not play him at all in the opening quarter. And this was an opening quarter with the Warriors won 26-15. Whether or not that was a coincidence, I don't know. But they were rolling. We didn't see Podziemski until the start of the second quarter. And when he played, unlike a lot of games this year, he delivered, man. Your thoughts on Brandon Podziemski, sir?
Well, I mean, I'm done with Podziemski. I mean, there's nothing wrong. I mean, he's a nice kid and all, but
yeah.
I don't see why you would have him out there. Now he rebounds, okay? He rebounds and he can cycle the ball around, and he's got good basketball IQ. He knows how to play. But I definitely don't like Pods in any kind of finishing lineup because he can't score. You don't want him, like, when you see him with the ball in his hands in the fourth quarter of a game, it's a very bizarre feeling as a fan because you're sitting there going, what do I want this guy to do? And I have no idea what I want him to do because I don't want him to do anything. I don't want him to shoot, and I don't want him to drive. So I just want him. What kind of a guard do I just want to pass and maybe get a rebound and pass? I mean, it's like that's what he contributes. He rebounds and passes. He had 1 assist tonight. Now, he had 7 rebounds. He's an awesome rebounding guard. That's what he is. He rebounds. He always rebounds. So if you're looking, if you have a lineup out there and you don't like the way you're rebounding, put Podziemski in, and he will help you rebound. But as far as closing a game, when he's got nothing that he can contribute with any consistency on the offensive end, so I don't know what to say. I don't want him to drive in, and I don't want him to shoot. I kind of want him to pound a couple dribbles and find somebody else. And is that a guy that should be on the floor in the fourth quarter?
I agree. I don't believe me. You're preaching to the choir with that opinion. Let me ask you this though, because the biggest critique of Pods this year, I think, has been the shooting, right? And last year he shot a solid 38.5% from deep. I don't think people talk about that enough. Again, his second and final year in college, he shot 43.8% from deep. But this year, entering tonight's game, I don't think the stats I'm looking at reflect tonight's performance as well. His shooting percentage from deep is down to 25.8%. With that said, again, the last 7 games, we're starting to see something a little different here. Again, he's hitting over 40% of his threes over the last 7 games. What if this turns into, instead of the last 7 games, what if suddenly the last 30 games, Pods is still shooting like this? Will your tone change? I mean, I know 7 games is a very small sample size. They lost 6 of 7 during that stretch, I believe. So I understand if there's skepticism abound from Dub Nation, from folks everywhere who covers this team, who watches this team. But what if the shooting sticks? Will your opinion change, or are you still?
Well, I mean, I always evolve. My opinion always evolves, and it changes with. Of course. I mean, it has to. Life is fluid. I mean,
agreed.
You show me somebody who's set in their ways, and they're not going to change. I'll show you somebody who's not that bright. I personally just don't like the look of it. I mean, it's like the statistics tell me it doesn't work, but then when I look at it, I can tell it doesn't work. I mean, he's leaning forward. He doesn't look right. Now, obviously, this guy shot the ball well in college, and he had a good shooting year last year. But we'll have to see. I mean, it's like, I mean, he doesn't look like a shooter. His posture is not straight up and down. It's not consistent from shot to shot. There's not a lot of that to me is where I think he breaks down. There's not a lot of consistency mechanically with his shot, and so I don't see him ever being really consistent. But who knows? Everybody gets better. We'll see if he works at it, but he needs to work at it because forget driving in because he's never going to have the length or the hops to really finish in the trees. So he's not going to go to the rim. He's not an above the rim player going to the rim. So he's got to be a big time shooter, or he's just a marginal NBA player at best.
Agreed. We're in a complete agreement. And I also Carson Taylor dropping some donations tonight as well. $1.99. Writing that the Warriors got really lucky in this game, as evident by the fact that Anthony Edwards shot just 6 of 20. You look at the first half, that was anemic for the Minnesota Timberwolves. They scored 37 first half points in this game, 15 of those in the first quarter. They were not shooting the ball well at all. They were playing ugly, period. That Knicks game, there might have been some after effects of them getting blown out at home by the New York Knicks. And this is where I'll piggyback off this comment a bit, because I don't disagree. The Warriors beat Minnesota some like 2 weeks ago or something like that. I'm looking at the schedule right now to find the exact date. But and I remember that was a game where Kuminga looked really good. And the date more specifically, it was December 8th. So nearly 2 weeks ago, the Warriors beat the Timberwolves at home 114-106. And I got that same vibe after that game. A lot of people were stoked. They thought, a brief slide at that point was over. That's not what I was seeing at all. Like, I was not very encouraged by the game, in all honesty. And then they kept losing. And I think that's where Carson's going with this one as well, that yes, the Warriors did win. And we're all obviously thrilled that happened because, again, 9 losses in 11 games, that's going to have you have a beard like this. Like, I'm finally going to trim the beard because the Warriors won. This was literally an act that gave me an excuse to be lazy, but I will finally trim the beard. With that said, I agree to a certain extent with Carson that this was not necessarily like a feel-good win. The Warriors had a 21-point lead that they just completely let evaporate again. The third quarter was abysmal for the Golden State Warriors. So I feel you, Carson. And you also added another $1.99 to say that the reason we expect so much from Podziemski is because of last year. That's fair as well. Larry, was this a feel-good win for you, man? What are your thoughts on Carson's comments as well?
Well, I mean, first of all, any win is a feel-good win. It doesn't matter how you win, just that you win in the NBA. I mean, nothing's perfect. It's about gathering wins any way you can. So it doesn't have to be statistically beautiful or an art, a masterpiece, artistic beauty or anything. Just get the W. And they got one, and what they really needed to see was they needed to see Steph Curry bounce back. But I'll tell you, I'm eager to see what the Warriors do here because, I'm hearing rumors that Golden State's really pushing hard to get a big man, and Vucevic is out there, and there's Valanciunas, and there's some different options out there.
Yeah, Time Lord, Robert Williams as well with Portland. Who would be my second favorite after Vucevic. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I don't know which big man they're going to get, but they definitely could use a big man. I don't know what, it's going to be interesting to see. Can they make a trade? Will they make their next trade without moving Kuminga? Because it's like they keep delaying this Kuminga, this Kuminga decision, right? You either have to pay this guy or you have to trade this guy. They don't want to trade him. They're definitely afraid to trade him, but they're also definitely afraid to pay him. So it's like at some point they're either going to have to move him or extend him. And I don't know. It seems like they're very nervous about doing either. But I think we're getting close to. I think they're gonna wind up moving him at some point. I really do believe that.
I don't disagree with that. And the biggest reason for me, like Shams Charania, who's probably the top dog in terms of ESPN reporting since Adrian Wojnarowski retired, he has reported twice, and this has stuck out to me tremendously, that the Warriors, when it comes to Jonathan Kuminga, are monitoring not Kuminga necessarily in his performance, but his relationship with Steve Kerr. And the fact that he's twice emphatically focused on that part of the report, that the Warriors brass themselves are paying attention to a relationship between a head coach and a young player, to me is mind-blowing. And I agree. Like, at this point, when I saw Kuminga not starting tonight, because I felt like the Warriors were primed to roll with the perfect starting five in a night like this when Draymond was out, which was to keep everything there in place except bench Schroeder and start Kuminga. That would have been your five that I think you could play with anyone. And then when Draymond Green comes back, then you just swap Kyle Anderson with Draymond, and you've got your five, man. You got a five that can play with anybody in the NBA, but Kerr clearly has there's something there. There's just clearly something there, and I don't know if it's just like some sort of inner voice, like annoyance with Kuminga, where he does something that just constantly drives Kerr insane. I don't know if Kerr just feels very protective of Stephen Curry, and for whatever reason feels Kuminga is a detriment to Curry when he's out there. I don't know, man. And Steve Kerr's never been direct and honest about his reasoning behind not giving Kuminga minutes, but when Kuminga plays, he delivers. Unfortunately, he doesn't always play, and tonight he had 23 minutes. So I'm totally with you. The one thing that I really don't want the Warriors to do is trade Kuminga for something that is just above average, right? Like Cam Johnson to me would not move the needle. Vucevic, this is a buyer's market. You're completely on the wrong end here of a trade if you're giving up Kuminga and getting back someone that is an above average role player, right? Like someone who, or maybe they're aging and you're not going to see him around in 2 years. That to me would be a colossal mistake. If you trade him for a borderline superstar, whole other discussion. But regardless, I'm with you, man. Like there's something there. If you had to theorize, Larry, if you had to guess, what would you guess is what is the variable with Kuminga that drives Kerr to not play him as much as he should? Like, what are you seeing, if anything?
Well, I mean, Kerr just, I think Jonathan Kuminga, is an incredibly athletic player. And sometimes he just kind of shuts off, and he doesn't make great basketball decisions. His feel kind of comes and goes. And I think when he makes kind of questionable decisions, Kerr just gets him off the floor. Kerr doesn't trust him. Kerr knows how young he is. I mean, he's 19. He's 19, and there are nights that he plays young. And he makes.
Well, he's 22 now.
Mistakes.
You meant like his rookie year or his second year?
Or I should say, he's 21. He came into the league at 19.
22.
But he's
he
really
turned 22
young.
recently. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a kid who's very, very young in the game, and so I mean, it's just. I think it's that. It's his youth. It's his inexperience. It's his mistakes that he makes on the floor. Kerr is not going to stomach it. He's going to yank him off the floor. And I personally, I've said this a bunch of times, but the Warriors don't they don't take their cues from me. That's for sure. But they need Moody and Kuminga and Pods and Trayce Jackson-Davis and their young players to be, bigger players, impact players on their team if they're going to have any chance. All this talk about, the Warriors are going to win 50 games. They got off to a hot start. They're going to win. They're going to have this great run. It's a marathon. It's a marathon, and all your young guys are the guys that are going to have to actually play and carry you through this marathon. I mean, all you need to know, it's December 21st. The season started in November, 1st of November. And so we're coming up on 2 months. They're going to play virtually, every other day or whatever between now and June. If you go to the finals, I mean, this is a war of attrition. And, Steph Curry's already looking old. Draymond Green's already hurt. It's like, they have to have the young guys playing big roles or it's not going to work.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's the problem, I think, is that when Curry's great, he had 31 tonight, he's plus 20, they're going to be great. But they're going to lose every game that Curry's not great unless Kuminga and Moody and some of the younger guys start to get minutes and start to get, their production up with some consistency.
Yeah, Stephen Curry, as you mentioned, the previous game where the Warriors got blown out by 51 against the Grizzlies, that was the first time in Stephen Curry's career where he did not hit a field goal in 10-plus minutes of play, which is why you could make the case that was literally the worst game of his career. The only player who I think played worse that game was Draymond Green, who in just under 20 minutes of play posted a Tony Snell type of night where he had zeros across the board, except for one steal. He did have one steal that salvaged that box score. And then Draymond Green did not play tonight because of the injury report listed a sore ankle. But Stephen Curry responded. 10 of 21 from the field, 7 of 16 from deep. He hit some big shots, especially in the fourth quarter. Minnesota was charging. Minnesota was trying to come back in this game. They took various leads in the third and fourth quarter. But Stephen Curry, just to give you his fourth quarter stat line, because it was damn impressive. And of course, my screen. Oh, there it is. Okay. So Stephen Curry in the fourth quarter tonight, 3 of 4 from deep, 3 of 5 from the field total, plus 10 in net rating at 13 points in that final quarter. I will, however, tonight give the player of the game honors to Trayce Jackson-Davis. Larry, this is another new thing I started to do here. We have our Vitamin Energy Player of the Game. Use the promo code Golden Days for 20% off your purchase. Go to vitaminenergy.com. And tonight's Player of the Game, Trayce Jackson-Davis. He was 7 of 8 from the field, 9 rebounds, had 2 blocks, 15 points, a plus 7 net rating. Bravo to Trayce Jackson-Davis. I thought he had a fantastic game. And again, check out Vitamin Energy. Get 20% off your order. Go to vitaminenergy.com. I want to call out real fast here, Larry. Someone in the audience that's just being a total douche. And I've been seeing this guy troll for years. Mario Trutonic. First of all, I've said this before and I'll say it again. I do not get inebriated before this show. The moment that the show's over, I'm going to be lighting up that J and being happy about that. But during the show, I do not disrespect the audience. And secondly, if this is the same Mario Trutonic who's been trolling me, and I've seen him on your show as well, if this is you, dude, and I really hope it's not, but if you are indeed the head coach of the Saddleback College women's team, you should be ashamed of yourself, man, because I've seen you use like the R word to disparage people. You're an educator of young adults, and you're sitting here trolling comment sections. You should be embarrassed of yourself. And again, I posted the link in the chat. Come on here. Instead of just like using lazy language like, oh, your takes suck. Be specific. Why don't you be specific and provide actual evidence instead of your lazy, lacking any sort of acumen take where, oh, you suck. Like, could you be any dumber than that? And you actually educate college people? If that is you, shame on you, dude. And the link is in the chat. Come join me anytime, man. I've never hid from anybody once. That includes your sorry ass who, if this is you, coaching junior college women athletes, and you're going around trolling in comment sections, you should be embarrassed of yourself, man. I post that link. Come on the show if you want to talk to us. Otherwise, shut the F up with your lazy takes that are that have no specificity to it, man. I never respect that. Anyway, sorry, Larry, to jump in with that real fast. But again, if you're going to criticize, just provide specifics. I don't think that's asking for much, man. Going back to the show real fast. And again, the link is in the chat. If you ever want to jump on with us, that invite is wide open. Andrew Wiggins tonight, first half-wise, statistically, I thought was awful. And I think he had 0 points in the first half of this game. Just to take a look at the stats overall, right here in the first half. Andrew Wiggins, 0 points. He was 0 of 5 from the field, 0 of 3 from deep. The defense was there, thankfully, but the offense was not. He did salvage his night to a large extent in the second half. 3 of 6 from the field, 1 of 2 from deep in the second half, made both his free throws, had 9 points. I still think him and Kuminga should be on the floor playing together. In the minutes that you saw, Larry, again, Wiggins has been mentioned in these trade talks, like you mentioned, just because you can't get a Jimmy Butler, hypothetically, like if we're using him as an example, you can't get Butler without including Wiggins. The money that Wiggins makes is imperative in order to in order to make the salaries match. How are you feeling about him, man? I mean, he's having a great year. Would you include him in a trade for Jimmy Butler? Your thoughts, brother?
I don't want to go for the Jimmy Butler route. I mean, Jimmy Butler's another old guy. I mean, I don't care about this whole, like, Steph's got to win one more ring. Make moves that make you a better basketball team. Don't just sell out for, this year and that's it. I mean, build a better basketball team. There are no shortcuts. If you think you're getting shortcuts, you're not. And Jimmy Butler's old. Now, that being said, I like Jimmy Butler a whole lot more than Wiggins because Jimmy Butler plays with fire. Jimmy Butler plays with intensity. Jimmy Butler is gonna he's not gonna blend in like Wiggins blends in, but he's also gonna be, more effective than Wiggins. So I like Jimmy Butler, the player. I just don't like trading for any player that old. It's a young man's game.
Yeah, I agree.
Guys get beaten down. I mean, look at Sacramento. They went for DeMar DeRozan. He's played it pretty well, but does it help them? I don't know. It's like I'd rather go young. There's a lot of young guys who are available. Zion's available, and there's other players out there. If Jimmy Butler, if it was like Jimmy Butler or nothing, but I don't know. Jimmy Butler is very, very volatile. What if he doesn't fit in? All it takes is you're going to have to move tons of assets. That's the other thing. It's like this Jimmy Butler thing doesn't work for me. It's like Wiggins and Kuminga and other assets.
No. That's why I want to jump in here real fast. No, Larry, you don't have to include Kuminga. Here's the deal. You can get Jimmy Butler in a trade, and Bobby Marks was just on a TV show the other day to validate this. At the same time, there's also reports that the Warriors are a little skeptical about Jimmy Butler because of his durability. He does get hurt a lot. But going back to trading for him, you don't have to give up Kuminga. There's reports out there that excuse me, you can make a trade and you have to include a third team. It is imperative because of the new CBA. It's virtually impossible for the Warriors and the Heat to make a trade just between them. You have to get a third team involved. But with that said, you can make a trade to get Jimmy Butler, and that trade would include giving up Wiggins, GP2, Kevon Looney, and let's say 1 first-round pick. The Heat would want draft capital. So if you don't have to give up any of your young assets, or let's say it's Podziemski,
every Jimmy Butler trade I've seen on paper includes Jonathan Kuminga.
Okay. Yeah, well, Bobby Marks just reported the other day the Warriors don't have to do that.
To me, that's it. Deal breaker.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that.
I agree.
Yeah,
Now,
if
what
I
about
can get Jimmy Butler without moving Kuminga, now let's talk.
What about Zion Williams? Do you remember, you and I are like some of the first people who brought his name up. We're ahead of the curve routinely. That's why I think people tune into us for a lot of reasons, among a lot of reasons. But Zion Williamson is now out there. Like, people have linked him with the Warriors. Similar trade. You'd have to do like a Wiggins, GP2 Looney type thing. You could also get Zion, man. And I feel like that's even less popular than Butler, but higher upside because he's younger. He's plays
24.
inside. Yeah, good.
He's 24. Yeah. Zion's agent is Bill Duffy. Bill Duffy's a buddy of mine. And Duffy says, hey, we're going to get Zion right, and he's going to have a whole nother chapter to his career. Okay. I would imagine getting him right means getting him healthy, maybe dropping some LBs. But Zion, now you're talking. Now you've got – now, granted, does he fit perfectly? No. But you're still talking about a 24-year-old guy who can score, who's got a lot of potential. I'm much more interested in rolling the dice on 24-year-old Zion than I would on 34-year-old Jimmy Butler.
I agree, and again, one win. It's incredible how just one game can change the mood of an entire fan base, and it takes just one win to suddenly make people giddy. I'm happy as well. Again, I'm going to finally groom myself. Bacon and eggs and breakfast croissant in the chat writes that I got to get over my love affair with Kuminga. Let me say, I'll repeat this again, man. I'm not a huge Kuminga fan. I am constantly advocating for him to play because that is how you know what you have with a young player. Jason Tatum has never in his career averaged below 30 minutes a game. And if you look at his stats his first 2-3 years, they weren't great. Franz Wagner, who a lot of people are bringing up now because the Warriors passed on him to draft Kuminga. He averaged 30 minutes a game his rookie year. It was not a great rookie year, but he needed the experience. You give him those minutes. Larry, here are the stats for Jonathan Kuminga. I pulled this up tonight on my Threads account and Twitter, but this is from my Threads. And I decided to do some updated research on how Jonathan Kuminga plays when he actually gets 30 minutes or more. And according to StatMuse, he's done it 37 times now, including this year. When he gets 30 minutes or more in a game, he averages 20.2 points per game. He averages 5.6 rebounds per game. He's shooting 54.2% field goal percentage. He shoots 41.8% from deep when he actually plays 30 minutes or more. And his net rating when he plays 30 minutes or more is a plus 34, meaning when he's out there and he's playing longer minutes, the team wins. He didn't start tonight. He played 23 minutes. I thought he had a great game. Field goal percentage-wise, he was 3 of 11 from the field. He had bigger dudes routinely guarding him. He was matched up with Naz Reid, Julius Randle. Even you had Rudy Gobert at times on the assignment on him. So the field goal percentage, the inside shots he was trying were a lot more difficult. So it was still a 3 of 8 from the field, 11 points total. I thought his defense on Anthony Edwards tonight particularly was fantastic. He also played a lot of defense on Naz Reid, the Warriors killer, who still had a good game. I think Naz Reid finished with 16 points, but it wasn't enough. The Warriors won. With that said, I just want to clarify, I'm not a Kuminga lover. I'm not like a fan of his. I'm just trying to be logical and sensical here in terms of how you treat a high lottery pick. You don't draft someone with the number 7 pick in the draft and just let him rot on the bench for 3+ years and then come up with judgments about him. Let the man play. I just want to see him play because every time, as these stats show, he plays 30+ minutes, he delivers. Every time. Like, he's consistently playing well if he plays extended minutes. So that is my stance on that. Go ahead, Larry. Sorry.
What's their record with it when he plays minutes?
Good question. I don't have. Let me look. I'll look that up real fast. Again, the plus 34 net rating.
That's kind of the bottom line because those numbers show that individually he thrives, and it's just a matter of does the team thrive?
Yeah.
And if the team thrives, and based on those numbers I'm looking at right there, I don't even need to see the team stats really. I mean, you drafted this guy in the lottery. He's easily your best young player. If you can't figure out that you need to play your best young player, then I can't help you. You know what I mean? What are we talking about? He's your best young player. He's easily one of the top 10 athletes overall in the league. He's a freakish athlete. You drafted him with your rare lottery pick. You refused to trade him. I've heard, 19 different examples of, but Joe doesn't want to trade him. Fine. Then get your coach to play him. Play this kid. Absolutely. You got to play this kid. I think you're muted. Did you mute yourself, Si, or am I not hearing you?
I'm back now. Sorry, my computer does that to me sometimes.
There
Sorry about that. My point is, I can't. I don't have that information in front of me in terms of wins and losses. But the fact that he has a plus 34 net rating at least shows that they're playing winning basketball when he is out there. By the way, Edward Esperante dropping $2 saying De'Aaron Fox is also available. I mean, look, we know Steve Kerr loves his point guards. That's an interesting one. What do you think, Larry? I mean, he dropped $2. That automatically gets their attention. I don't know what to say about that. That's a funky one. De'Aaron Fox, your thoughts, Larry?
Well, I mean, okay, so we're in a weird, uncharted territory now because Steph has been the Warriors' on-the-ball point guard forever, and now he's obviously getting old and he's fatigued, and so they're looking to ease his burden by having other guys play on the ball and have Steph play off the ball. I think it's smart, but I think that's one of the reasons Schroeder is here, right? Because he can play on the ball. And I think they could free up Steph and give him a little bit more juice to help as an off-the-ball scorer, which this team probably needs. All I would say with Fox is that if you have Fox, you sure have an awfully small team. So
right.
I do think that they need another on-the-ball scorer, but I think it needs to be somebody more like a Josh Giddey. I think it needs to be a bigger-bodied guy. If you're going to play him with Steph and you're going to play Steph off the ball, you still got to have, a bigger-bodied player out there. It doesn't really work. I mean, that's why Steph and Clay worked so well for so long, is that Clay was a 6'7" two-guard. If you had if you want Steph to play the two, well, you better have a 6'7" point guard. You better have a good-sized point guard. And a guy like Giddey who sees the floor and can play on the ball, to me, that is a better fit than Fox. And I don't know if the Kings want to move Fox or not. I've heard some people say that Fox and Herter are available, and then I've heard other people say that Fox and Herter are not available. So, I don't know what Monty McNair is going to do.
Peanut in the chat writing, and Peanut is it? I know someone with that nickname. Former pro snowboarder named Joanna Jerzowski, I think. If that's you, give me a shout out. It's been a long time. But anyways, Peanut writing that she's been screaming for a De'Aaron Fox trade. If that's a she, maybe it's a he. For weeks now. Armando Lara in the chat, a Golden Dazer, paying $2.99 to subscribe and be a Golden Dazer. Your chats are highlighted, writing that you can't, and this is a great point, I agree, that you can't choose the coach over the player. We saw that with Don Nelson and Chris Webber. We saw that with Latrell Sprewell. Well, no, I don't know if actually, they traded Sprewell to the Knicks. So I agree. It's not a wise choice.
They didn't trade him to the Knicks. They traded him to the Knicks for one of the worst packages of all time. They took
Starks?
Well, it was John Starks, Terry Cummings, and Chris Mills's awful contract. And Sprewell was in his prime, and those guys were all, on Geritol. It was the lowest moment of the Warriors' existence. I remember standing there right behind the bench talking to Tim Roy right as Cummings and Mills and these guys were playing their first game. And I'm like, what happened? What happened? What happened to the team? Because it wasn't that long before that the Warriors had Weber and they had everything. They were a 55-win team. They were on the verge, and it all blew up. Oh, my God. I remember sitting there going, the Warriors are screwed. Absolutely screwed. I mean, it was just brutal trade.
Carson Taylor dropping $1.99 saying, if we're talking about De'Aaron Fox, why not go all in for Devin Booker of the Suns? I don't think he's available for a trade. Otherwise, I'd absolutely endorse that. Poop in the chat, great handle, saying, I remember the choke marks on his neck. I remember that too. That was crazy. You're right. There was a period there. That was like part of a 5-year period where we had like the melee in the Palace. We had Spree choke and PJ. Yeah, there were some moments there. We had a lockout, Jordan's retirement. That was just a rough 5 years, dude. There was no way to spin that. Anyways, well, so what's next for the Warriors? They're off tomorrow. I guess is it a good time to start wrapping it up?
There's no question that the Warriors are looking for a big man, and then the question is, what's it going to cost them, and who can they get? Can they get Vucevic? Can they get Valanciunas? Who can they get a center? Because it sounds like they're in the market for a center. Now I don't know who they're going to move to get this center, but from what I'm hearing, they're in the market for a 5, and they want more size. I mean, Looney is a favorite of Kerr's, but I almost feel like it might be best for him to be moved just to take him away from Kerr. Kerr almost has to have
beat him. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, Kerr's like one of those guys. You almost got to take guys away from him, otherwise he's just going to play who he's going to play.
Yes, sir.
And he's got enough clout to play whoever he wants.
Yep.
And on this team, there's so many guys that are kind of relatively equal skill level that who's going to debate it? I mean, it's like really he's got total carte blanche to play whoever he wants. I would love to see them get a Vucevic. I mentioned Vucevic and Giddey because I think Giddey's a good fit. Some people don't like Giddey, but I just think Giddey's a big body point.
That trade right there from Sean McRae would get you, because you don't need to include Podziemski to get Vucevic. But if you want Josh Giddey, you would. And look, I feel like if you want Giddey, and Steve Kerr loves Giddey. A friendly reminder, that's who the Warriors were planning on drafting in 2021. Then the Thunder took Giddey with the 6th pick. Nobody expected Jonathan Kuminga to drop to 7. He was projected by some mocks to go number 1. So he falls to 7. And the story goes that Draymond Green then called Bob Myers, was like, get this kid. He's, you'd be stupid to not go after such a high prospect. Giddey got taken. So Jonathan Kuminga is a Warrior and the rest is history. But they clearly did want him, and I wouldn't mind it if you're swapping Podziemski for him. You're getting bigger in the process, but otherwise, you don't have to include Podziemski to get Vucevic. But so what you're saying, Larry, is
I would trade
endorse
Podziemski in a deal for Vucevic if you would give me Giddey, because Giddey to me fits with Steph. Podziemski does not.
And Jake, no, you're right. And Jake Capini in the chat adding that the Bulls reportedly will not trade Vucevic without also trading Zach LaVine, because if they're going to rebuild, you got to get rid of all these contracts. But who knows what's really going on? There's so much speculation out there.
Well,
it's ridiculous.
I mean, you could take LaVine if you wanted to spin LaVine somewhere else. You could do that. LaVine's actually playing well right now.
Yes, he is. His value's going up. He's also been linked to the Denver Nuggets among many names.
I don't know how you feel about the Warriors. To me, this is how I feel about the Warriors. I want to keep Trayce Jackson-Davis. Obviously, you're going to keep Steph. You're going to keep Schroeder. You just got Schroeder. You're probably going to keep Buddy Hield. You're going to keep Draymond Green. Other than that, be creative. That's what I would say to Dunleavy. Be creative, because I don't think you're a title contender now. You were 12-3. You're now 15-12. You absolutely need to shake it up. They need more trades, not less. To me, I would start moving guys around left and right, reshuffle this thing a couple different ways, see if you can make a couple of deals, and see what it looks like after the reshuffle. I mean, teams do it all the time, and I kind of trust that Dunleavy might be able to do it well. Yeah. So, and I don't know about you, but I'm not tied. Who am I tied to on this team? Well, obviously, I'd like to see Steph and Draymond stay just because of their status. Other than that, on the entire team, I would say Buddy Hield, Schroeder because he just got here, and TJD. And I'd rather keep Kuminga than trade him, but I'm open to moving everybody if you can make the right kind of a deal. Which, it sounds like a bad spot to be in, but it could potentially be a good spot to be in.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Kai17 bringing up something interesting, and I'll do my research on this, but he writes that the first 20 games of the season is the only sample where Brandon Podziemski has shot below 35% in his entire life. All right. So hopefully, again, that was just a slump, and we'll get over it in that regard. The Golden State Warriors, again, they thankfully stop a brutal slide, losing 9 of 11. Next up on the schedule is an interesting one. It's an opponent that I feel like has had their number against the Golden State Warriors, and that's the Indiana Pacers. The Golden State Warriors are back home. I believe 9 of their next 11 are at home. Whether that's a benefit or not, Last year, it was not. This year, so far, a slightly different story. But the Pacers are coming to town. We got Tyrese Halliburton, Pascal Siakam, Miles Turner, a player a lot of members of Dub Nation love and wish the Warriors would trade for. Larry, what's your early prediction and preview for the Warriors and Pacers on Monday night at Chase Center?
Well, it's interesting. I saw the Pacers were the other team that is interested in Zion. And that's interesting.
It is.
The Pacers.
It is.
The Pacers are an interesting basketball team. I'm a big Halliburton fan. I mean, gosh, I always wonder how would the Warriors be different if they had taken Halliburton instead of Wiseman? Because man, Tyrese Halliburton is a really good player. He's a smart player. He's a fun player to watch. Siakam, they went all in on Siakam. I'm a big fan of Benedict Mathurin. I think Mathurin's fun to watch. Miles Turner, in a lot of ways, is a piece that would be great for the Warriors. And then they've got some guys who have been on other teams. I mean, T.J. McConnell's kind of a gamer.
He is.
Obi Toppin was awesome at Dayton in college and not nearly as awesome in the pros. Nembhard was great for the Zags, not as great in the pros. Neesmith was phenomenal shooter at Colorado, not as great in the pros. There's some other guys down on the bench here that I really like too for this team. I like Ben Shepherd from Belmont. I really like Jarris Walker. So this team's got some interesting players on it for sure. I haven't seen them a lot this year, though.
Yeah, and when we go back to 2020 and that Wiseman pick, which in hindsight obviously was just a complete disaster, like my first thought in terms of what ifs is always, what if they had swapped picks with Minnesota and got Anthony Edwards, which was on the table, but and the story goes, why Anthony Edwards worked out for the Warriors, and Steve Kerr told him that he didn't respect his work ethic, and that was that. And because of even though he was still the number one pick in the draft for a very good reason, and then there was also the LaMelo Ball aspect of this, where it's insane. If we had known today, and this includes the Warriors, that their father. Who was a massive turnoff. And remember, he was in everywhere. He was debating like Stephen A. Smith. He's got the shoe brand out that might have cost his eldest son years of his life because those shoes are just trash. But LaMelo Ball, I mean, that's another what if. I know he's a bit of a Mr. Glass there with injuries and durability, but a lot of what ifs, dude.
Especially right now, because the Warriors would love LaMelo Ball right now. I mean, in a lot of ways, LaMelo Ball is exactly what the Warriors need right now.
Yeah.
They need a big, on-the-ball guy who could play with Steph and let Steph play off the ball. And LaMelo would be absolutely ideal to play with Steph.
Yeah.
He's big. He's a showman. He would put people in the seats. He would be very, very popular.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify Sean McRae saying Bob Myers circa 2021. This was 2020, but keep in mind, this was not just a Bob Myers selection. This was a Bob Myers, Joe Lacob, Steve Kerr selection. They all had input. Multiple reports have confirmed that, including, not to mention, a lot of sources have told me as well. So that was a Steve Kerr pick as much as anybody. So I
don't know. I mean, it seemed like Bob Myers was trying to tell us on the way out that it was Joe's pick. Did he not say we all know Joe loves size?
Yes.
Well, it's an interesting comment considering they don't have any size on their team and that they drafted this marshmallow center that everybody's trying to distance themselves from. It's interesting that Myers would say it's almost like, you know what? Everybody knows that Wiseman was a massive fuck up, and it's just a matter of who actually made that pick. And it was probably Joe, and owners don't fire themselves. And so, I don't know. Maybe he's framing Bob. I don't know. To me, if you said who picked Wiseman, I would say Joe freaking Lacob.
Well, Steve Kerr has publicly said that he was part of that he was behind, that he was involved in that selection. There's been a couple stories out there. The Myers attribution you're referring to was near the end of his tenure. And I think that reference was more towards like free agents and I don't know, man. I do know, I've heard with certainty that it was a three-headed operation in terms of drafting James Wiseman. But who cares, man? This is all in the past now.
Yeah.
Maximus saying Joe Lacob is a moron to pick him. That's a fact. What happened? All right, we're wrapping it up here.
What's he saying? I missed that one.
Where'd it go? Right here. Saying that Joe Lacob was a moron to pick James Wiseman. So
Self-made millionaire. I don't know.
yeah. So all right. Well, good news is, folks, it's a Saturday night where the Warriors are victorious. It's been a long time since this happened. Larry, do you mind sticking around real fast for a scoreboard recap, seeing what else is going on around the NBA?
Sure.
Beautiful. So this is what's going down on a busy Saturday night. We'll start in the land of the sun, where the Phoenix Suns, they're not doing much better, Larry. I know a lot of people are pointing to the Golden State Warriors. We'll talk about the standings in just a second, but Phoenix lost at home to the Detroit Pistons in a game where Kevin Durant was playing. 133-125 the final. Phoenix drops to 14-13 with the loss. Detroit 12-17 now on the year. Cade Cunningham 28 points, 13 assists. Kevin Durant 43.6 assists in the loss. Any thoughts on the Suns, who are reeling even worse than the Golden State Warriors right now?
Durant with 43. Wow. 14 of 26 from the field. Bradley Beal also had 26 in that game. They didn't get much off the bench, though. It was like all their starters and not a lot on the bench. I mean, I'll say this for Detroit: if you get the right, get the right night, Detroit looks good. I mean, Cade Cunningham had 28, Ivy had 20, Malik Beasley off the bench had 18. I thought that was a big key for them.
And you're talking about the Suns bench. Like Ryan Dunn played 14 minutes, Mason Plumlee, Monty Morris, Grayson Allen. That was it. I don't know why Josh Okogie stopped playing. I thought he was one of their best players last year. Damian Lee is still on that team, member of the 2022 title winning Golden State Warriors squad, and he got a DNP. So things are not the buttonholes honeymoon appears over down in Phoenix. The San Antonio Spurs 114-94 winners tonight over the Portland Trailblazers. The Spurs improved to 15-13, just behind the Golden State Warriors. We'll do the standings in just a second. Portland, the losers tonight, they dropped to 9-19. Victor Wembanyama 30.7 rebounds, 10 blocks in this game. Shaedon Sharpe, a player who I feel like the Trailblazers have a lot of like young up-and-comers, and we've been saying that for a few years. Like we talked about Anthony Simons, Shaedon Sharpe's another one. He had 25 points, but none of them are taking that next leap, at least as far as we've seen. By the way, I haven't played any sound tonight. You want to hear from Steve Kerr real fast?
Sure.
All right, this is Steve Kerr. This is courtesy of Sam Gordon of the San Francisco Chronicle, a regular guest of the program, a fantastic reporter for covering the Golden State Warriors on the beat. And he recorded this in a room. Larry, I don't know how funny you find this scenario. To me, this is just a delight, because this room that you see on the screen right here, I'm going to guess there are 2 media members in here, maybe 3 at the most. Sam Gordon, maybe Anthony Slater, maybe Danny Neverman of the San Jose Mercury News, and that's it. But the image, like when you watch this, the image portrayed is of a packed room with a lot of reporters. No, there's maybe like 2 or 3 people here. Do you find that amusing? I don't know. I find it just peculiar and funny to know that there's like no one in this room that Steve Kerr is talking to except for like 2 people. But anyways, here's Steve Kerr.
You know what? It's tier 1. And I just don't fuck with tier 1.
You know, isn't the tier 1 thing a particular joke when you look at the NBA ratings? Like, why are you being so picky? Like get over it. Like these people are not plated with gold. Like they're human beings. Your league needs coverage. This tier 1 shit is ridiculous, man. Would you agree? I don't know, man. Like what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts of the ratings being down? I don't think we've talked about that. There's a lot of talk about a lot of discussion about the
ratings are down because nobody knows who the fuck anybody is anymore. I mean, the draft was the biggest no-name draft of all time. I mean, it starts right there. When you don't know any of the new players in the league, and there's some guy named Rasacher from some foreign land is like your number 1 pick or whatever. I mean, that's the problem. There's not enough branding in college basketball. These guys, they transfer a ton. They leave right away. There's no branding. Nobody knows who they are. They come into the league. They're underdeveloped. Their brand is underdeveloped. That's the problem. I mean, the league used to have a bunch of guys coming out of college who had developed games and developed brands. So you had guys who could contribute right away and play right away. And you also had guys that people knew about and were excited to see. And now you don't. Now it's like It's like the entire league is made up of guys who inherited millions of dollars from their super hardworking grandparents, and they're just I don't want to do this. I don't want to do interviews. I don't want to. There's no media access. You never hear any of the players interviewed. They're not. It's. I mean, what are you going to say? I mean, when was the last you go to a 49er, cover the 49ers, you can interview anybody you want. You cover the Giants, you can interview almost anybody you want. You cover the Warriors, you're never interviewing any of the big guys. You're not going to interview Steph. You're not going to interview Clay. Clay's not even there anymore. You're not going to interview Draymond. Those guys aren't going to be interviewed. So they're not very accessible. That's one. The skill level has dropped dramatically. The game is a boring fucking game with way, way too many threes. And there you have it. I love the All-Star format. I really do, because what's going to happen is the rookie sophomores who don't, the NBA All-Star game is like a game played in front of a mirror. These guys all are worried about how they look. Nobody's playing the game to play the game. Everybody's playing the game for how they look. They should play with a gigantic mirror next to the floor. And then the other problem is everybody's afraid to, it's like not cool. It's kind of like the problem in society. It's like, it's not cool to be a hardworking student. It's cool to be kind of a slapdick, slough off nothing who sits there and says, I don't give a shit. So it's cooler to not try than it is to try. And so you get into an all-star situation and everybody wants to look cool. So it's way cooler if you don't try than if you try. So you got a bunch of guys who inherited this league from their grandparents, and they're not worth it, and they're not worth watching. And so they're not playing the game the right way. The All-Star game's a train wreck. They had to fucking cancel their marquee mid season event because their players won't play the game. It's a tire fire, man. Nobody cares. They went way too political. All this baseline political messaging. Just play basketball. Nobody gives a shit. Show me some joy. Show me some hustle. Show me some skill. None of that exists. Instead, you got LeBron lecturing people, Popovich lecturing people. Popovich grabbed the mic and told people not to fucking boo the
Hawaii. Yeah, that was weird.
I mean, that was ridiculous. These people pay thousands and thousands of dollars to see totally mediocre, shitty basketball. They can boo if they want to boo. They're not going to be told what to do by some fucking jackass like Popovich. So, I mean, it's just the whole thing. They've lost their way. They've been branded. It's no longer this coveted thing. I mean, there's tons of entertainment out there. They used to have Christmas Day. The NFL said, "Oh, screw you. We'll take Christmas Day, and you guys still play." And it's like, no, yeah, they still play, except nobody watches. So it's like the NBA plays on Christmas, just nobody watches. They're all watching the NFL. So that's the problem in a nutshell. You've got too many entitled players who think they're badass and they have no skill, and nobody knows anybody in the draft. And if you don't know anybody in the draft, guess what?
That's a problem.
You get a couple drafts like that, and then all of a sudden you get nobody knows anybody in the league. And when you don't know anybody in the league, guess what? You don't want to pay thousands of dollars to sit courtside to watch guys you've never heard of.
And there's a lot of reasons that people cite. I feel like you covered all of them, right? In that excellent, eloquent soliloquy you just dropped on us there. Bravo, brother. That was fantastic. That is a promo. Tell Kevin Krueger, promo that, please, right away, because that's some fantastic comment right there. Fantastic content. I agree with all of that. Like, I've never been a huge fan of political messaging in sports, simply because most of us watch and consume sports to get away from reality. So don't bring reality back into something that we're trying to not pay attention to and escape from. To me, there's a lot of different variables playing a factor in this, but this is just my opinion, right? But I do agree strongly with you that the branding part of this, the name recognition, the face recognition, the fact that the majority of the game's upcoming stars are international and not American. Like, outside of Anthony Edwards, it's hard for me to name another burgeoning superstar in the NBA, right? That's American. Nikola Jokic, not. right? Luka Doncic, no. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Canadian. I think we can bridge that cultural divide to a certain degree. But I just, you're right. I think what's lacking are stars who are local, who have a connection with the American populace. And Anthony Edwards is like the only guy, and he's not even there yet. So yeah, I agree. It's a problem.
And look at next year's draft. Let me read you the top 10 prospects in next year's draft.
All right.
Okay. Here they are. Cooper Flagg.
And that's huge, right? That's a huge one.
He's a big name guy.
He
but
could
I mean,
be the savior. He could be.
He could be great, but I mean, how many people, honestly, we're all sports fans here. How many people have even ever seen Cooper Flagg ever play in a game?
I mean, outside of us junkies, nobody. You're right. Nobody. Yeah.
Okay. So nobody knows Cooper Flagg, and he's the most well-known guy there is. Second pick, Dylan Harper. I'll give you $10 right now to anybody who can name where Dylan Harper plays.
I don't know. Yeah, I can't.
Rutgers. Rutgers. Third pick in the draft, Igor Demin.
Rutgers is Frank Red's school. Is that correct? Or am I
Igor
wrong?
plays for who?
Who?
Igor Demin?
I have no idea. I don't know. I've never heard of him.
BYU.
Okay.
He's the third pick in the draft. Toronto, as they say, is going to take Ace Bailey. He's a 6'9" swingman.
Yeah, I've heard of him.
Who does he play for?
I don't know. I don't follow the college game.
He plays for Rutgers. Did anybody in the world know that
players?
That Rutgers has two of the best 4 players in the NBA draft play for Rutgers? Has anybody watched Rutgers this year? No. Trey Johnson. Have you heard of him? I haven't. He plays for Texas. Nolan Traore. Have you heard of him? No. He's a point guard in France. He's supposedly going to go 6th. Boogie Fland. Have you heard of him?
Nope.
Point guard, Arkansas. Haven't heard of him. VJ Edgecombe. Have you heard of him?
No.
Nope. Guard, Baylor. Going to go top 10. Asa Newell. Have you heard of him? No. He's a power forward from Georgia. 10th pick, Kasparis Jukashis. Wait a second. This guy's name
nice
is
effort
awesome.
there, because that I'm
Kasparis
just hearing that.
Jukusionis. He's a 6'6" point guard shooting guard. He's a freshman for the Illini. Okay, I mean, I'm sorry. I don't know anything about
Illini. Yeah.
I don't know anything about him. Anything at all. Noah Essingay from France, going 11th. Liam McNeely, going 12th from UConn. Don't know anything about Liam McNeely. So I'm just saying, part of it is on me. I'm not going to sit there and blame these guys fully. I don't watch a lot of college basketball until we get into, February and March. I'm not that kind of a college. I'm a college football fan like all year round, but I'm a college basketball fan just really in the tournament and like conference tournament. Now, I'm looking at the entire NBA draft.net 2-round mock draft, right? So now these are the top 60 players that are in this draft. And I'm just going to look to see if I've heard of any of them. Okay. Any of them. And sports is my life. Okay. No.
El Camillo Dorado is asking, why do you not? I don't watch enough of your Niners coverage to it. But they're wondering, do you bring this passion regarding Kyle Shanahan or no?
Here we go. Ryan Kalkbrenner, the Creighton center, the 7'1", 270-pound center from Creighton. I've heard of him. He's supposedly going to go 4th pick in round 2 to Dallas. Ryan Kalkbrenner. I've heard of Alex Karabon from UConn. He's going in the 2nd round. Here's a guy that I love, Tyon Grant Foster. Do you remember him last year?
No.
He played for Grand Canyon in the tournament.
No.
He's like a dead ringer for Wiggins. He's 6'7", 210, 215.
Okay.
He looks exactly like Wiggins. He's good. He's played for Grand Canyon. He's going to go in the 2nd round. Who else? Is there anybody else that I've even heard of? Mark Sears, the Alabama point guard, who's 5'11". He's about 6 feet, 5'11", 6 feet. He's pretty good. Ryan Nembhard from Gonzaga. Heard of Nembhard. He's a point guard for them. Okay, so I've heard of like 5 or 6 guys of the top 60. And I am a sports guy. And I watch sports, a lot of sports. So if I can't even name any of these guys, this is like the phone book to the average fan. So you got to get from a place where the players coming into your league are more recognizable than random names out of the phone book.
Well, Larry, our mutual friend 49ers Minded mentioned to me another name, Jamarian Sharp, who's I saw the clips of him and I'm like, the Warriors could use someone like him. He's like a super tall. Could you enlighten the audience? I mean, you're brilliant when it comes to scouting, among many things, but your scouting is so on the mark, man. That like every time you talk about
Sharp?
Well, no. This guy's name is Jamarian Sharp. He's like 7'5". He's a rookie in the NBA this year.
I haven't seen him.
And I never heard of him until 49ers Minded brought him up, and I'm like, oh, this guy looks good. Like, anyway, yeah, I totally hear your point though. You're right. That it's the college game in basketball to me has been just uninteresting for a very long time, and I think the one and done thing is a huge reason for that. Like, you have no consistency. You have no one sticking around to actually become recognizable and familiar. So until they come to the NBA, I'm not like, well, I'm not connected to these guys. I don't know them well at all. And I do think you're onto something there in terms of the college game, maybe needing some investment and maybe keep players there a second year and then use that NIL money to make it worth their while to stick around.
Rob Mack over here in the chat, this guy, he's like, so you guys have a problem with politics and sports? That speaks volumes about you. The only time politics and sports collide is when they are racial societal issues. Well, that of course is not true.
No.
I don't have a problem with politics and sports. Politics is a part of life. Sports is a part of life. I have a problem with incredibly wealthy athletes lecturing the general public on what they should do based on incredibly wealthy people. That it doesn't matter if they're it doesn't matter to a guy making $17 million with $183 million in the bank if their grocery bill goes up 75% from 2 years ago. It doesn't matter to the person who's super rich that the gas is $5 a gallon on the West Coast. It does matter to the fans. So yeah, there's lots of fans that are like, you know what? I don't want to be lectured by rich people about what I ought to do as far as my vote. You know what I mean? It's like, stop lecturing me. I'll make my own decisions. How about this? I'm not supporting you because you're an awesome political speaker or advocate or whatever. I'm following you because you're a basketball player, because you play the game of basketball at a high level. So that's why it's not shut up and dribble. Everybody's entitled to their opinions. But as far as why do people have a problem with politics in sports? Because they're listening to relatively uneducated people lecture them about things that they know nothing about. And they're like, shut the fuck up. I don't want to hear you lecture me about what I should do. LeBron, when you have $18 million in the bank and 150 coming to you and you just can't relate. So, I mean, it's about relating to the common man. And I think a lot of fans are at the point where, guess what? I don't want to hear my athletes lecture me about their political beliefs because that's not why I'm watching them. I'm not watching them to hear their political opinions. I'm watching them to enjoy their physical gifts and the way they play the game that they play. So it's no different than anything else. The same way I don't want to hear my politicians get up there and start telling me about who's going to win the Super Bowl. Shut the fuck up and run the country. You don't know shit about that.
It's also like Hollywood getting look, and you could say the same thing about a lot of different athletes. Obviously, it's a complicated issue, right? Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that Muhammad Ali was wrong for taking certain stances on social issues because in the 60s, civil rights was not a thing yet, and that was egregious, right? So I'm not going to sit here and say that it was wrong for Muhammad Ali or Jim Brown to fight for civil rights. My thing with politics and sports is the majority of people, I'm going to guess, watch sports, consume sports, because politics is serious business. It's reality, right? And sports is a toy box element of life. It's not.
The word you're looking for is it's a diversion.
It's an entertainment. You're right. And
diversion from real life.
Yes. And so if you're bringing more real life into it, it's going to turn people off. That's where I stand with it. It's just, there's a time and place
That's
for
really
it. And
that's really it. It's like, guess what? There's real life is everywhere, but nobody wants the Toys R Us person who's checking out, toys or whatever. They, selling toys or FAO Schwartz or some great. You don't want to have them sit there in tears and super upset about things. Why? You want a happy person. Why? Because they're working in a toy store, right? You don't want somebody who's going to be pounding political issues at at Toys R Us. You want somebody who's happy that that the kid got the toy. And it's the same thing in sports. It's like just it's not that we can't do two things at once. It's just
there's a time and place for it, right? And this ain't
it. You're killing our enjoyment of something by bringing in real life. Don't bring in real life. Like you're in the middle of a movie. Nobody stops the movie in the middle of the movie and starts lecturing you on Greenpeace. It's and doesn't mean that the whales don't deserve to live. It just means that we don't want to hear it in the middle of our fucking movie.
Yeah, life is hard, man. And I heard a great line the other day from it was some podcast I was listening to, and the person speaking brought up a high school teacher that they've been longtime friends with. 30 years ago, this high school teacher had one word to encapsulate the student body that he taught, and the one word was bored, right? And I think that makes sense. 30 years ago, yes, I was bored. I wanted to see the world. I was restless. And then the word used today, 30 years later, to properly epitomize the student body is anxiety, right? Times have changed, and the world is, at least to me, Larry, I don't know how you feel, has never been more chaotic. Has not gotten easier and better from when we were younger. And I don't blame people for being anxious. So sports is a place where you're trying to escape all this reality. And so when people bring it into sports, I can understand people being turned off by that. I get
people are being turned off by these. Supposedly there's an echo going.
I see that too. And
somebody
I don't know what the hell.
Said that you had to go in with Damon the other night. I've never heard. I tried to kind of tinker with things behind the scenes, but I do care about the echo. I just can't do anything about it.
And I can't either. And I sincerely apologize. If it's coming and going, I don't know. Hopefully this is just a one-off. Hopefully Niner MMA. I apologize for that. Hopefully there's no echo when we hear from Steve Kerr. This is courtesy of Sam Gordon. This is Kerr summarizing. I don't know what this attribution is, but here's Steve Kerr following the Golden State Warriors snapping a brutal stretch. 113-103 the final. Here is Steve Kerr.
Yeah, it did. I mean, we held them to 103 points and 42% shooting. Fought like crazy defensively. Took care of the ball. Got out and ran. I felt like our team, and I think Dennis. You could see Dennis's impact tonight on the game, but also what he's going to mean to our team, his leadership, the way he was pulling guys aside during the timeout to talk to them, encouraging them, even admonishing them when they needed to be admonished. So we need Dennis's leadership, but his ball handling, the way he takes pressure off of Steph, I think that allowed Steph to stay fresh and close the game out the way he did. So felt like a really good night for our team. We needed the win, obviously, but I did feel like we got kind of back to who we are.
Larry, your thoughts on the beard? Steve Kerr's trying to grow a beard, man. I don't know if I like the look. And what are your thoughts on that and his comments there?
No, Steve, no, on the beard, no. I mean, you're just gonna look like a bum. You're just gonna look like a bum. Blonde people.
He does have a hobo look there a little bit.
Yeah, you're just gonna look like you're down on your luck. You know what I mean? I love Steve, but Steve, come on, bro. You're a good-looking guy. You got it. You got the hair. Just roll with the hair. And just go with that clean cut look. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work. But I do think his comment there was really interesting in that the first game with Schroeder looked atrocious.
It did.
And what it looked like was, and it should have looked atrocious. Why? Because you're changing who's driving the whole thing. When you take the ball out of somebody's hands and you acquire an on-the-ball player, you change because that player is brand new. So when anytime you're changing whoever's on the ball, you're changing your team. So it was a dramatic change. And what it looked like was, okay, it's now it's Schroeder's turn. Okay, now it's Steph's turn. Oh, now it's Schroeder's turn. Now it's Draymond's turn. Now it's Schroeder's turn. Now it's somebody else's turn. It just looked like a guy who was running he had the ball in his hands, but he didn't look comfortable. It's going to take a little time, but I think Schroeder does free up Steph to be fresher as a scorer, and that's why I want Giddey. I want Vucevic, but I think Vucevic and Giddey would be a great combo for the Warriors. Why? Because now you got another guy who can handle the basketball, another guy that enables Steph to play off the ball, and you're going to add another shooter of significance so that when you're swinging the ball on the perimeter, you swing it to Vucevic, you got to close out on him. And, we've all seen it too. When you're a 6'9" three-point shooter, 6'10", in his case, he's 7'1", 7'1" three-point shooters spread the floor better than 6'1" three-point shooters.
Absolutely.
Because you have to get way the hell out there to contest those shots. So Vucevic, to me, a Vucevic and a Giddey would give Golden State exactly what they need. But I think it is interesting that Schroeder does freshen up Steph, and that is something that they're seeking. So I love the idea of Vucevic and Giddey in addition to Schroeder.
Yeah. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again, that if the Warriors do make the trade, Looney, GP2, and a first rounder, and you get Vucevic back, they're winning the whole thing. I guarantee it. And I haven't used that word guarantee since summer of 2021 when I said the Warriors, I guarantee will win the championship. I freaking guarantee it. And someone in the chat asked, what does Josh Giddey make this year? He's still on his rookie deal, so his salary is approximately $8 million. Nobody's given him an extension yet. He's exact same boat as Jonathan Kuminga, where he could be a restricted free agent this offseason, and then we'll see what happens. Larry, I got the trade machine.
You could you get Giddey and Vucevic without moving Kuminga?
Well, let's find out. I got the trade machine right here. So if we included hypothetically in this trade, let's say GP2, and again, the huge reason why GP2 and Kevon Looney are included in these deals, besides the fact that, at least in my opinion, these are two players that Steve Kerr has a massive crutch on, not crutch. He uses it's a Billy Bean thing, right? You got to take the players away that he uses, but they're also expiring deals, and the Bulls are not going to take back contracts that go beyond this season. Both GP2 and Kevon Looney are on expiring deals. So first things first, if let's say we just throw in Looney and we throw in GP2 and we're trying to get Vucevic back. If we hit this trade button, it says failed. So now we got to add one more person to make this one work for the Warriors. And that could be anyone from Moses Moody. It could be Podziemski. Because I think they have to get...
Yeah, I mean, you're assuming they want to... Well, they may want... expirings, but to me, if you were going to get Vucevic, you almost have to throw Wiggins, don't you? Because he makes 22.
No. Because GP2, no. Wiggins would scare the Bulls away because he still has 3 more years on his contract after the season. He would be the last thing the Bulls
want expirings, huh?
They want expirings, exactly, because they want to go into a full rebuild. So you'd likely have to, in a deal like this, maybe throw in like a Podziemski. And then if you want also Josh Giddey, who makes an extra $8 million. So let's say we want to throw him in there. Now you got to include a piece like, let's say, Kyle Anderson, right? And this is where Kyle Anderson's contract...
What about Moody?
Or Moody, right? So we could throw Moody in there. And if we try this trade, Vucevic and Giddey for GP2, Looney, Moody, and Podziemski, we still have to add one more piece to make the salaries work because the Warriors have to throw back more money. In other words, what I'm trying to say here is the Warriors can't take more money back than they're giving out, right? So we'd have to include one more piece here, and this could be something as simple as Lindy Waters III, right? So if we include Lindy Waters III, now we have a successful trade. So this trade hypothetically would be...
and picks. You're going to have to throw a pick in there. There's no.
Well, I don't know if you include Moody and Podziemski because those are young assets that might be good enough, right? I mean, I don't know. Maybe.
I mean,
maybe.
I'm making that move. I'd absolutely make that move.
Yeah, right, but there. It's approved. It would work. Yeah. There we go. You want to hear from Stephen Curry?
Sure. We were going through our scoreboard. We kind of.
I know we did. We'll get back to that real fast. I know, Larry. You got to. I know we've been going long. I apologize. Let's play Steph sound scoreboard. We'll go home. Let's call it a wrap on a Saturday night. Here is Stephen Curry talking talking about the fourth quarter and how the Warriors actually were able to score late in the game. Here's Steph.
I mean, it felt good. Obviously, we needed a win. We needed a feel-good type of experience after the Memphis game. You knew that Minnesota's they made a run coming out of halftime, but we were playing well enough. It seemed like everything they got was off of transition. So in the half court, if we could just settle the game, in the half court, we could get stops. And thankfully, I hit a bunch of shots. We got organized offensively, which was great. We've talked about that over the last 48 hours. Is just understanding what shots we're trying to create, what sets we're trying to get in, and the biggest play, honestly, I mean, obviously I made threes, but the biggest play was GP in the pocket and allowed to Wiggs. We were up 7. They had hit a couple shots. I missed that layup and we came back down, and that is a organized play that it's kind of like our bread and butter. And I told GP that was the biggest play of the game right there. And you see what the deal.
All right, your thoughts, Larry, on Steph giving GP2 a lot of credit for the end of the game plays.
Well, I mean, you can always. Oh, wait a second. Now I'm hearing myself on the reverb there. But yeah, I mean, it's you can always point to a certain sequence or key sequence in any game, and I think that was a key sequence for sure. I like GP2. I know GP2. It's all about, does Kerr play him in the right role? And tonight he played off the bench. He played 21 minutes off the bench. He was plus 13. To me, I thought this is kind of more of the role I like for him. He had 5 rebounds. He had 4 assists. He had 7 points. He was plus 13. I mean, to me, I like GP2 in like a 20-minute range off the bench, not as a starter, but he can make big plays. And I thought the play that Steph described there was absolutely one of them.
Yeah, I honestly, and I know this is going to be an unpopular opinion, but I honestly thought the GP2 minutes, they'd be fine if he had played 0 minutes. I really do. But look, he helped. I'm realizing more and more, but his minutes are coming largely because Steph wants them, and it's a lot harder for me to argue against GP2 when it's a Steph request because Steph's greatness I absolutely respect wholeheartedly. Dumpster Fire Dan, for example, saying that Kerr and Steph are the only reason this franchise has 4 chips. Agree to disagree. A Steph part, I agree. The Kerr part, I think they could have won those KD championships with anybody coaching those teams, but that's just me. Real fast, Nato Sando. Oh, this is an individual who's in Hong Kong, Larry, dropping 78 Hong Kong ducats, which I still don't know what that translates to. But
yeah, what is the conversion rate there? Should we be happy or what?
I don't know. It's probably like 50 cents, but whatever it is. Thank you. Writing that he would love Zion Williams in the Bay, and you better bring Trey Murphy with him. I don't think the Pelicans are giving him up.
I don't understand why the Warriors couldn't see in the draft that Trey Murphy was really good. I mean, 6'9", great 3-point shot. They chose Moody. They could have chose him, right? He was there.
He was there.
Trey Murphy is a 6'9", 2-guard, small forward, tremendous shooter, great floor stretching player. Yeah, he's good. He's really good. They're not moving him.
You're phenomenal when it comes to scouting. I just want to remind people out there, like I don't know if you used to be a professional scout in football, right?
That is true. That is correct. But basketball to me has always been the easiest of the sports to scout because
what's your secret? Because you do know your shit. Like you nail it routinely, brother. You deserve the kudos. What's the secret?
The secret is let your eyes tell your brain what it sees. Don't let your brain tell your eyes what it saw. In other words, don't read so much about a player that you've decided if he's good before you watch him. Your eyes will tell you everything. But then the other thing I always look for is just like, especially in basketball, you really have to look at the numbers. You got to go watch the players and decide who you like when you watch them. But then you got to go watch the players and you got to look at the numbers and see what kind of free throw shooter is he? What kind of 3-point shooter is he? What's his game? What's his game going to be at the next level? What kind of team is he on now? Does he? Some guys are awesome on their role, but they can only play their role, and they're not very. advanced as basketball players. Other guys are way advanced as basketball players and can play any role that you ask of them. So you got to kind of know what you're drafting, who you're drafting, what their upside is. But I don't think there is a secret other than basketball players. I think you just got to watch it and just have a feel and see. I always like guys who can pass. I always look for the passing trait, because if you can pass, those are advanced traits. So like one of the traits I loved when I was looking at Klay Thompson coming out of Wazoo was he made one play where he like literally threw a 40-foot bounce pass to somebody on the break. And he didn't do it a lot, but he showed he could do it. And it was like, wow, this guy really is more than just a beautiful shooter and a good defender. This guy has some upside as a passer, which I think shows basketball IQ. Passing is usually the last thing to come. So yeah, I just look for that. And then body type. I mean, in the NBA, there's a lot of these rim runner types, and there's guys that played internationally, and you don't have to be the most skilled player if you have the right length and athleticism and you can run up and down. I mean, and a lot of times that skill development comes later. Look at Pascal Siakam. I mean, Siakam was missed in the draft because he was kind of a late bloomer.
Yeah.
So
Nikola Jokic is, I think, is one of the biggest prime examples where, he was a late second round pick, and now he's arguably the best.
A lot of people thought Nurkic was the better of the two. Do you remember initially there were a lot of people that said Yusuf Nurkic is great and Jokic is just like a guy. But, Jokic also, like a good scout would know the Jokic story. Jokic has had huge issues with his diet. This guy used to drink an entire 2 liter of Coke every day. And so he was carrying a lot of bad weight. But you could also see he's got kind of a liquid type game where, he's got a counter for every move that every move you have as a defender, he's got a counter for it. So he's just so fluid in what he does. I mean, he's just an awesome player.
Yeah. And Nato, thank you. Apparently 78 Hong Kong dollars translates to $10 U.S. currency. So I'll thank you for that. We'll happily take these donations, and we're grateful. Thank you, sir, for that. Going around the NBA to wrap it up real fast. We started this about 45 minutes ago. Sorry, Larry. I know you wanted to run. Thank you for joining me tonight. The Milwaukee Bucks defeated the Washington Wizards tonight in Milwaukee. And Larry, when I'm done reading these scores, I'd love to hear your thoughts on them winning the NBA Cup and whether that means anything to you. But the Bucks winning 112-101 over the Wizards in Milwaukee. Milwaukee, as the great Alice Cooper once said in Wayne's World. 15-12 is now Milwaukee's record on the season. The Wizards dropped to 4-22. Bobby Portis, 34 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists in the win. Koulibaly, 20 points, 12 rebounds, 3 steals in the loss. A lot of people in the chat tonight were talking about Jordan Poole and how he's missed. Poole played 36 minutes tonight, 26 points in this game, added 5 rebounds and 3 assists. Larry, 2-part question. Did the NBA Cup mean anything to you? And do you miss Jordan Poole being on the Warriors?
I mean, first of all, the NBA Cup means nothing to anybody. I mean, what does it mean?
The Lakers would disagree, Larry, because they got a banner that they're hanging up there.
Banner? I mean, what's the banner? What are we even talking about? They got a banner.
It's an NBA Cup champion banner. They really do.
I mean,
no joke. It's a joke, but it's not a joke.
No,
if that makes sense.
The NBA Cup. I'm so glad that these guys who get paid, on average $7.5 million, have an extra $500,000 in the bank.
Is that the average salary for an NBA player? Is $7.5 million? Is that right?
No, I don't know. It's probably more. So I would say a couple things on this game. One, Jordan Poole is going to be traded again, and Jordan Poole is going to be traded a ton in his career. Get ready for that. I can already see it. The Wizards are going to wind up trading him because nobody likes him. So he's going to wind up getting moved again. So that's interesting. Valanciunas played off the bench in this game. So, once again, another big man that could be out there for Golden State. But then the other guy the 2 guys on Milwaukee I want to mention in this game, Bobby Portis would be a great Warrior. His game just keeps developing. He was 6 of 9 from 3, 34, 10, and 8 tonight. Mm-hmm. Bobby Portis is a really nice player. He would be a nice Warrior. And look at who started at point guard for the Milwaukee Bucks and had 14 points in 31 minutes. Ryan Rollins.
Was it you? Was it us? I was just talking
Yes.
about him the other day,
We
and
were talking about him.
it was us, yeah, and how he's back. I did not realize he started tonight. That is incredible.
14 points off the bench in 31 minutes. He's a pretty good player.
Isn't that a win for?
player.
Isn't that a win in hindsight for Bob Myers? Because the Warriors did spend money to trade up to get this guy.
Absolutely.
And you're right,
it doesn't help him,
14.
but yeah.
14
But it shows that he
points.
knows an NBA player.
And Ryan Rollins loves the strip club, so more power to you, kid. Congratulations, you're back. What a weird start to his career. I think got arrested for shoplifting, and then good for him. He's back. Boston Celtics 123-98 winners over the Chicago Bulls in Chicago. Jason Tatum 43 points, 15 rebounds. 10 assists. That is a triple-double, and then some in the win. Nikola Vucevic, 19 points, 10 rebounds in the loss. I want to ask you about Toronto because that's not going to be on the scoreboard tonight, and the reason why I bring Toronto up is because they're another team that the Warriors might end up being trade partners with, given they're in a rebuild. This is a buyer's market this year. That does not happen most years in the NBA, where there are players out there you can get for practically nothing. And the Raptors, I think best case scenario would involve a package that includes Bruce Brown. I love that guy. I wouldn't mind him on the Warriors. But more realistically, maybe Kelly Olynyk is the type of player that the Warriors could get. What are your thoughts on Kelly Olynyk? He doesn't excite me. I wouldn't hate it. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, an effective big man shooter, not a fan, not a huge fan. I don't think there's not a lot of consistency there, but yeah, not a big fan.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's finish up here real fast. So the rest of the scores, the Cavaliers, 126-99 winners over the 76ers, who I guess the worst of their days are behind them now, even though they lost tonight. Cleveland, 25-4 on the year. Philly drops to 9-17. Evan Mobley, 22 points, 13 rebounds, 7 assists in the win. Tyrese Maxey, 27 points in the loss. Any reaction?
Well, Paul George had 11. Are the Warriors going to still try to go after Paul George, or is he pretty much set there in Philly?
I don't know. That's a good question. Would you want him? That's another question. I wouldn't hate it, but
I mean, I think he's got a lot of talent. He's always had a lot of talent. But Cleveland, watch out for Cleveland, man. Cleveland is really good. If Cleveland, Evan Mobley's one of the best players in the league that nobody ever talks about. And they got a really good backcourt. They got size. If they had one more bench scorer, I think Cleveland would be really dangerous. Cleveland's one of those teams that if they could get like an instant offense bench piece to go with what they have, man, watch out.
Absolutely. And we're almost there, and we'll call it a night for Saturday. The Utah. Oh, this was the game of the night easily. The Utah Jazz defeating the Brooklyn Nets 105-94. I wish the Warriors weren't on tonight so I could watch that one. Totally joking about all that. Sexton with 18 points, 4 steals in the win for Utah. Ben Simmons, is that his name right? Ben Simmons, 15 points, 6 rebounds, 10 assists in the loss for Brooklyn. The Memphis Grizzlies, 128-112 winners over the Atlanta Hawks. Memphis improves to 20-9. Atlanta drops to 14-16. Desmond Bane, 23 points, 8 assists, 4 steals in the win for the Grizzlies. Dyson Daniels, who's been a nice pickup for the Hawks, 15 points, 6 assists, 6 steals in the loss for Atlanta. Any reaction from those games? We got 2 more after this.
Well, I mean, Zach Edey is, another guy a lot of people thought couldn't play in the NBA.
You were hyping him up. You were hyping him up. Good call. Another good call.
6. Scottie Pippen's kid's a pretty good player.
Yes, he is.
And he had 22 and 9. I'm a big fan of Jaren Jackson. Man, I love Jaren Jackson.
Yeah, he's
a tremendous player.
Perfect on the Warriors. Impossible to get, but he'd be perfect on the Warriors.
Supposedly the Hawks are going to trade Capella before the trade deadline.
I wouldn't mind him. I would not.
The guy that I
him.
like on the Hawks is Larry Nance Jr.
I wouldn't mind
Larry
him
Nance Jr. And there's some odds that say that the Warriors are one of the teams interested in Bogdan Bogdanović.
That's a weird one. I wouldn't hate that, but that's
I like Bogdan. He's really good combo guard. He can play 1. He can play 2. He makes plays. He knows how to play. I mean, this guy played with older players as a young player, and he's always had kind of an advanced understanding of the game. I love David Roddy. That's another one of my favorite players. He played at Colorado State. Have you ever watched David Roddy play?
No, I'm not that familiar with him.
David Roddy is like 6'5" post player, but he's like one of the broadest, widest players in the league, and he's pretty skilled. Really underrated player, I think. He's 6'4". Listen to these dimensions: 6'4", 255.
That's you're not moving that boulder.
6'4", 255, and he's skilled.
That's like Zion dimensions.
He knows how to play. He really does. He knows how to play.
Kid tricks Oh, sorry.
There's some underrated players on that Hawks team. Larry Nance, David Roddy, Bogdan Bogdanovic. All three of those guys are role players that really know how to play, and could be very valuable on a good team. They're not on a good team. The Hawks are a 500 team, but those are some interesting pieces there. And I love Memphis. I'm a big fan of Santi Aldama.
Yes,
Memphis carved up the Warriors the other night and just looked totally dominant. But this Memphis team to me is good. Jaren Jackson inside. Now you have Zach Edey. You have Santi Aldama. I mean, I love their big man combo. They've got
and you like Marcus Smart. I know you're a Smart fan as well.
I love Marcus Smart as a defender, but I mean, just their big man collection. Santi Aldama can shoot the three ball, and then you've got Jaren Jackson, who's just a phenomenal athlete, and then you've got Edey, who's just this gigantic body, who's got some scoring ability. So I kind of like Memphis, man. I think Memphis is they don't have every piece they need, but they've got some impressive pieces for sure.
And they're deep, and Clark's back from that Achilles injury, and he's good. And
well
the Warriors, the Warriors are small already. They're literally the smallest team in the NBA in terms of average height. They looked the part in that Grizzlies game, man. Like Draymond Green looked like half the height of Edey trying to defend him. It was ridiculous. And we barely saw Trayce Jackson-Davis play in that game. Yeah, that was embarrassing, man. That was just an awful night. Yeah, I'm with you, man. Zach Edey's, and he could be good. By the way, I want to give some just a quick respect shout out to Kid Tricksta for mentioning that Andrew Wiggins was scoreless in the first half of tonight's game, in large part because of the effort he was putting out to defend Anthony Edwards. No doubt, man. Wiggins showed his worth out there tonight with that defense, particularly. Two more games, and then
can I give you one? Okay, go ahead.
No, you go, please.
No, because this is one of the games you're going to go to, and then I'll comment.
All right, and I'm saving the best for last. The Orlando Magic defeated the Miami Heat tonight, 121-114. Orlando improving to 18-12. The Heat dropping to 13-13. Cole Anthony of the Magic, 35 points, 8 rebounds, 9 assists in the win. Terry Rozier, 23 points in the loss for the Heat. Was that the game you wanted to talk about, or the?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I've always thought that Cole Anthony has got a lot of ability. And if Golden State's really looking for, a young, gettable guard who can, have Steph play off the ball a little bit, Cole Anthony seems like he's, totally available. I mean, he never has really gotten any kind of momentum going with his career. He's always kind of played off the bench. But I think what you're seeing tonight is the kind of performance that he's got in him. He had 35 points, 8 rebounds, 9 assists, only 2 turnovers. Cole Anthony, that's Greg Anthony's son. He's a smart kid. He's a good kid.
Did not know that. All right.
Yeah, he's got a lot of ability. I've always loved Cole Anthony's game.
Does it surprise you how much progeny there is in the NBA? Like, because it's not nepotism. You gotta, if you're gonna make it in the NBA, you're making it on talent.
Bronny, of course.
Well, unless you're Bronny, you're right. There were exceptions, but like for example, Doc Rivers' kid, Austin Reeves. Austin Rivers.
Austin Rivers. Yeah.
Like, he was good enough to make it to play in the NBA, but obviously, but Stephen Curry, there's just a lot of kids. Like, I guess I don't see it as much in the NFL, although I guess you kind of do. I mean, you got the Mannings. I guess it does exist in all sports. Just being around it your whole life helps, I suppose. And then the last game, and we are calling it a night after this, and this was a doozy. The LA Lakers were here in Northern California taking on the Sacramento Kings, the reeling Sacramento Kings, and the Lakers win this game in a I guess the end of it was really tight. Anthony Davis supposedly missed some free throws. It was drama-filled. 103-99, the Lakers beat the Kings in sack. No beam for your brother, Larry. LeBron James, 32 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists in the win. De'Aaron Fox, we talked about earlier, 31.7 assists in the loss. The Lakers improved to 16-12, while the Kings, who would not even be a play-in team if the season ended tonight, dropped to 13-16. That's wild. I didn't expect the Kings to be this bad. Your thoughts, man?
Well, I mean, it's a make or miss league, and Kevin Huerter was 1 for 7 from 3. Malik Monk was 1 for 8. Those two guys combined to shoot 7 for 24 from the field, so they shot him out of it. Malik Monk is an awesome scorer, and I love Malik Monk. I wish he was on the Warriors. He started tonight opposite Fox. He played 36 minutes, and he had a dreadful night. He shot 8 threes. He missed 7 of them, 3 of 14 from the field, 5 turnovers. It was just kind of an ugly night statistically for Monk. So, to me, I'm a big Monk fan, but Monk and Huerter, if the shots aren't falling, man, you're going to have a hard time winning. And I don't know what they're going to do at the deadline. It'll be interesting to see, but I think Sacramento is another team that is probably going to make a deal. They look like they're going to make a deal. They probably need to shake it up. From what I'm hearing, Herder's available. Trey Lyles is available.
I was going to bring that up. Trey Lyles, I think, would be an excellent piece for the Warriors if that's somebody they want to pursue. But
he's a big man who can shoot.
He brings size, right? And I'm not going to forget how he played against the Warriors in the postseason. It is interesting what's going on there, Larry. Well, the Warriors in the standings they needed this win because they've been reeling. They entered this game 10th in the Western Conference, and now they're 7th. The OKC Thunder are first, followed by the Memphis Grizzlies. Houston Rockets are 3rd. Dallas Mavericks. The LA Lakers are 5th in the Western Conference, man. This is all very tight. Denver Nuggets are 6th, and the Golden State Warriors are currently a game behind the Nuggets in the loss column, even though they have the same almost identical record. And then the Clippers, Spurs, and T-Wolves round out the top 10. Any surprises in terms of how the West is playing out? To me, the Timberwolves and the Kings are probably the 2 biggest surprises. I expected way more from them. Anything sticking out to you as we wrap up the show tonight?
Well, I mean, the fact that Houston is such a young team and they're 3rd in the West. The fact that, Denver is, I think of Denver as a really good team. They're down. Minnesota was a really good team a year ago. They're down. It's been kind of an interest. The Warriors are in the mix there, but it's like the Warriors are stopping by 7 on their way to 10. You know what I mean? It's like that's what it feels like to me. But yeah, I would say overall, a little surprised that Memphis has played as well as they have. A little surprised that Houston's played as well as they have. And a little surprised that Denver and Minnesota have kind of backslid a little bit. And I'm really surprised if you said the biggest surprise to me is the Pelicans. I mean, the Pelicans are 5-24. They're the worst team in the entire league outside of Washington. I didn't see that coming. They're 1-14 on the road. I mean, they just don't win at all on the road. 1-14 on the road.
That's bad. That's bad. I mean, look, good for the Warriors. Very bad for them, clearly. Injuries have just derailed them. I mean, DeJounte Murray got hurt before the season started. Zion Williams, then they're also like a shit show there. I mean, you have 2 players making a ton of money who both want, at least Brandon Ingram wants an extension, and you can't even move them. I mean, these are 2 players that just a year or 2 ago were looked at as the future of the league, as potential superstars, and now they're scrubs. That's insane to me. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to make of that. Like, if I'm the Warriors, I would not mind having Brandon Ingram on this team. Zion, I know some people are skeptical because of the injury history and the fact that he loves porn stars as much as he does, and he loves Dunkin' Donuts as much as he does. So I get the skepticism. I get all that, but it's just crazy to me that team is real the way they did, and that 2 players that were supposed to be superstars in this league are now just discarded trash, pretty much. It's crazy.
Well, this might be the team for Golden State to get with trade-wise, because there's some pieces. Yeah. There's some pieces here that are. Zion would be a great Warrior. Trey Murphy III would be a great Warrior. Jordan Hawkins, the former UConn player, I think would be a great get for the Warriors.
Great shooter.
Brandon Ingram is a big time player. I mean, he would be the second scorer that the Warriors seek next to Steph Curry. So there's a number of pieces there. That whole mix probably doesn't fit together. The Warriors mix may not fit together. The nice thing about Golden State is that they've got a bunch of assets, and there's a bunch of possibilities. And it's not like there's been a lot of years they've been at the deadline. There's like, they don't have any pieces to move, or there's nobody to get. This year, I feel like they've got the pieces to make moves. There's pieces out there that are worth getting. I think they're absolutely. If you said what are the odds of them making a significant move before the deadline, I'd say 100%.
Oh yeah, which is way far apart from the norm with this team. They've only really during the Kerr era made one significant midseason trade, and that was for Andrew Wiggins in a completely lost year. So I personally love the fact that the Warriors are in the mix. I'm glad they're aware that they need to make a move. That's probably the best part for me is just their self-awareness in knowing that they are a piece or two or three away. Like they're not going to succeed with this current incarnation of the team. And this is also from everything we talked about tonight, as we're pushing 2 hours, because that's what we do, Larry. We hopefully entertain the audience with great stuff. This is why, after everything we've talked about, I am emphatic in the Warriors not making a big deal where they're giving up important pieces. This is a rare season where it is a buyer's market. The Pelicans, the Raptors, the Trailblazers. Then we just saw it with the Nets. There are a lot of teams that are looking at Cooper Flagg and all those draft picks you brought up, and a lot of seasons are not like this. So the Warriors need to be prudent, clearly, but don't give up anything important for what you're going to get back. You don't have to, right? And obviously we're talking more specifically about young assets like Kuminga and so forth. I don't even know if they should trade Trayce Jackson-Davis. Tonight was awesome for him. So we shall see, brother. This was fun as always. I know we went long. Thank you. Any final thoughts or anything you want to wrap up the show?
No final thoughts. No final thoughts. That's
Done.
it.
We're out of here. Thank you, everyone. Sincerely, apologies for whatever was causing that echo. I haven't seen any complaints about that lately, so hopefully that went away. Otherwise, Warriors win. I mean, that's all you can ask for, right? Good stuff.
Danny Golding has one more super there. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Larry and Cyrus. Thank you.
Great call. I'm glad you saw that. Larry, what are you doing for the holidays? Any big plans?
No, just hanging out with the family. My daughter's coming to town on Christmas Eve from Atlanta, so she's been going to school out there. So
what school?
Emory. So we're really excited to have her back, and then just going to hang out. Going to get a few days off, and just going to enjoy some family and hang out.
I've heard that one of the best experiences in life is a parent whose child went to college, and then when they come home for those first times, so like, and you could attest to this. It's like it's like the happiest moment you could have as an individual. Is that true? Is that a fair thing to say?
I mean, I would say it's always good. It's always good to see the kids. You know, it's fun. It's definitely
good
fun.
Stuff. Folks, Larry is a family man. He's a model of what most people should aspire to be. I am not hyperbolic in saying you are the king of Bay Area sports media. Wear that crown proudly, brother. You deserve it, and it's always a pleasure doing this. What's coming up next on the Krueg Show? Like, you have a show tomorrow? Because the Niners don't play, right?
Yeah, well, I'll be on tomorrow. I'm going to be joining Damon for the second quarter on his live stream in-game thing, and then I'll do a 49er pregame hit on KMBR, a 49er postgame hit on KMBR, and then we'll go live on the Krueg Show after the 49er game is over with myself and Kev and Danny and Rye and some of the people, and then we'll call it a night. We'll call it a night and be back.
Warriors.
Doing, and then next week I have Niners Nightly on KMBR Monday at 6, and then Tuesday through the rest of the week I'm taking the rest of the week off.
Good for you. And the Niners, I believe, play the Dolphins, right? And they have a 1% chance of making the playoffs. Is that correct? Like a near impossible, but not impossible.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Not making the playoffs.
Well, Golden Days will be off tomorrow. We'll be back at this Monday night. Warriors Pacers post game. So tune in for that. You can follow Larry Krueger on all social media platforms at Sports Larry K. It's super easy. You can follow me on Threads and Instagram at Dog Wild and Twitter at Surf Journalist. Larry, thank you as always, brother. It's always a delight doing anything with you. So thank you. And thank you to the audience. Thank you to everyone. I think we're done. This is it. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.